Hi, I'm back again, and today we're going to be reading some literature. I am really excited about this book, guys. I have read several pages, and by several pages, I do mean, let's look here. I'm on page 46, so I've read quite a few little stories. I'm going to tell you the author's name, but I'm going to tell you via audio pronunciation because the author's name is a little hard for me and I don't want to butcher it. So,
Franz Xaver von Schönwerth. Franz Xaver von Schönwerth. Franz Xaver von Schönwerth.
you guys got that? So it is my understanding that the Turnip Princess is a bunch of different wives' tales that were verbally spoken. So back in the day, people didn't write things down because a lot of people were illiterate, much like myself. And they're marketed it on this book as newly discovered fairy tales. And I guess the word new is kind of subjective, but it is, I'm trying to see when this came out. Please hold. So the author died in 1886, but it's my understanding that they found this later and published it. So it's older than the Brothers Grimm. And some of the stories in here, you can see how people like Walt Disney or the Grimm brothers were kind of inspired by some of these fairy tales. And I really find that fascinating. I'm very inspired by witchy things or fairy tales or magical things. I love a good fictitious moment. So this book has been very fun. Now, I will say, I learned about this from a podcast, and I cannot remember the name of the podcast. I was trying to find it in my following list. I'm going to pop it on the screen. They have more stories, and I love this podcast. It's my little secret obsession. So sometimes it scares me. They talk about some dark stuff sometimes, but I'm trying to watch less and listen to less scary things before bed because I be having nightmares. I have bad dreams sometimes. So first of all, love the cover art on here. Also, there's like some really fun little arts at the beginning of each story. They're not super, well, maybe not each story, but most of them have them. But it'll have things like the iron shoes, and it has like shoes on there. So I really have enjoyed this book thus far. The stories, like I was saying before I interrupted myself, the stories aren't always the most thrilling because they weren't rewritten to have like a dramatic effect or to make the story better. It's my understanding that the author went around to a lot of different people and got the versions of like the verbal stories that people would pass down in taverns or by the fireside or like wherever. And this is like the revised collection of all of those. So the podcast that I mentioned, I'll link down below, but they inspired me to buy this book and read it. It just sounded super fascinating, and thus far it has been. So today I'm going to share a story with you guys, and I'm going to do my best to not stutter, but I can make no promises. So I want to read the back of the book to you as well. So it says, "A rare discovery in the world of fairy tales, now for the first time in English, which is my mother tongue. With this volume, the Holy Trinity of fairy..." I messed up already. I'm embarrassed. "With this volume, the Holy Trinity of fairy tales, the Brothers Grimm, Charles Perrault, and Hans Christian Andersen becomes a quartet. In the 1850s, France traversed the forests, lowlands, and mountains of northern Bavaria to record fairy tales, gaining the admiration of even the Brothers Grimm. Most of France's work was lost until a few years ago, when 30 boxes of manuscripts were uncovered in a German municipal archive. Now, for the first time, France's lost fairy tales are available in English, violent, dark, and full of action, and upending the relationship between damsels in distress and their dragon-slaying heroes. These more than 70 stories bring us closer than ever to an unadorned oral tradition in which fairy tales are rooted, revolutionizing our understanding of a hallowed genre." Guys, this book is just like an amazing piece of almost lost history, and I've really been enjoying it thus far. So I just wanted to show you guys this and share one of the stories from it. So please enjoy this storytelling. Not by me, just I'm reading it to you guys. The story I have decided to read for you guys is called The Three Flowers, and I did pick this one out because it has a little like author's note down here, which is nice because it gives you some context into the lore. I don't know, I haven't gotten far enough to know if this is the only story that has these. I'm sure it's not, but be looking for more. No, it's not. There's others that do have it. But I enjoyed this because it gives you context, even though sometimes I know context, somebody might not. So it's nice to know a little bit about it. Wood sprites or forest sprites are tiny creatures that make their homes near hearths. Their clothing is made of spun moss that hangs in rope-like strands from trees. We think of them as enchanted beings hounded by phantom hunters. They live together as married couples and bear children. Their enemies are phantom hunters who rage through the lands like wild beasts during autumnal storms. That means in the autumn. The wind sprite's only protection against them is to take refuge on a tree stump that has 3 crosses carved into it. And I am going to insert a picture of this on the screen because it's very small and I think the camera might have a hard time picking it up. 3 flowers. 3 huntsmen went in search of their sister, who had been abducted by a witch and hidden away in the woods. They traveled deep into the forest and managed to survive a killing game and sleeping beneath trees. One day they discovered a cozy little cottage where they were able to sleep more comfortably. The first night they watched a spark leap up from the hearth, and a tiny little woman began cooking milk in a thimble. The huntsman forced the wood sprite to leave the hut. Now and then she could be seen perched on the fence post, singing a morning song and weaving a bushwood crown into her hair. When the men caught the unhappy woman and put her to work as a maid, she trembled and wept, repeating the words, "Don't jail me, don't slay me, I can bring your little sister back to you." The huntsmen were overjoyed, and in a few days, Katie, white as milk and red as blood, appeared in the hut. She told her brothers that a little gray man had been visiting her. He frightened her with his teasing and forced her to suck on his little finger. The brothers ambushed the little man, murdered him, and buried him in the garden. Before long, 3 flowers with long stalks began growing on his grave. Katie marveled at the splendid colors and the sweet aroma of the bright blossoms. Whenever she bent the stalks down toward her nose, the wood sprite cried out, "Don't break the stalks!" Exclamation point. One day, an adorable little white dog found its way to Katie and would not leave her side. The dog barked 3 times, and a tall, handsome stranger appeared in the woods. "What a beautiful maiden!" he exclaimed, and he walked toward her to take her hand. "I want you to be my wife," he said. "My castle is just beyond these mountains, in the distance, and I'll come to fetch you in 3 days." The young woman was astonished, but she nodded her agreement. The hunter left. "I wish this would happen to me." The brother warned their sister about the stranger who was courting her, but she threw caution to the winds. Same. 3 days later, the fair-haired hunter arrived in a splendid carriage, and their marriage was celebrated. The brothers came running up to the carriage, but their sister had already rushed down into the garden and picked the flowers. When the stems snapped, the brothers froze right in place and turned into deer. Katie stood there, as pale as snow and cold as ice. The wood sprite whispered in her ear, "For 7 years you must be still and quiet as the grave!" Exclamation point. The hunter was still in love with Katie, even though she could not speak. He took her with him in the carriage and traveled back to the castle, where the two lived in prosperity and plenty. The hunter's mother was an evil woman who disliked Katie. She was constantly scolding the young woman and making her life miserable. When the time came for Katie to deliver a child, she bore a son, whom the old woman took and choked to death. I'm shocked. She took some of the child's blood and smeared it on the mother's mouth. Then she rushed to tell her son, "Take a look at the woman you married. She has devoured her own child!" Exclamation point. Frightened and horrified, he entered his wife's room and found her asleep. The 3 flowers were still there, untouched. He knew from the wood sprite that the living flowers were proof of her innocence and fidelity. If it were only that easy. Katie gave birth to 2 more sons, each of whom became victims of the bloodthirsty old woman, who had also discovered the truth about the flowers. She tore them into pieces, bewitched her son so that he finally trusted her, and agreed to summon the executioner. Katie went to the place of execution like a walking dead woman. Just a word was all she needed to save her life. Pale as a sheet, she was seated in a chair, with her neck exposed. The sword above her head was flashing in the daylight. Suddenly, a cloud of dust appeared in the distance, and 3 riders, mounted on 3 stags, shouted as loudly as possible, "7 years have passed. Now you can finally speak again, dear sister!" Exclamation point. The punishment was visited on the bloodthirsty woman rather than the innocent wife. The castle was bursting with good cheer. Every year, the matron of the castle visited the hut of the wood sprite in the woods, and her children decorated the little room inside with flowers. But it was always empty and remained gloomy, with just a cricket chirping beneath the hearthstone. Guys, I really enjoy this book. This book has a lot of different stories in it, as you already know. But this story specifically had a name. Not all of these stories have names. So I think, well, they have names like titles, but they don't have names of characters all the time. And that's something that I really enjoy. I am on currently Thumbnickel, which I have not read yet. So this is kind of my pleasure reading right now, and I've really been enjoying it. So I hope you guys enjoyed it also. If you guys liked this video, then like it. If you didn't, then don't. But if you really didn't like it, then you should probably dislike it. I'll see you soon, if you're lucky. Leave requests in the comment section down below. Or criticisms. That's fine too. Ciao.